Carl Stober here for Area Code Baseball. We're at the 2012 Area Code Baseball Games presented by New Balance. I'm standing next to Eric Cressey, sports performance, Cressey Performance, and we're talking about sports training when it comes to baseball. What's really the most important thing out here for these high school players to understand?
I think the thing that we try to emphasize with guys is that durability is a lot more important than ability, meaning that, loads and loads of guys are drafted in professional baseball every year. Lots of kids go to play college baseball. Lots of kids play high school baseball on a really regular basis. But there are a lot of guys that wear out, whether it's arms, whether it's leg injuries, low backs, whatever it may be. So kind of educating kids on how to take care of their bodies, be advocates for themselves to understand how their body works, and put in the time in terms of just warming up correctly, doing arm care on the side, getting involved in good strength and conditioning programs. It all fits together in the whole grand scheme of things for long-term athletic success, whether it's baseball or any other sport.
Awesome. And with your training, talk about some of the athletes that you're working with right now.
Especially on the New Balance side of things, Tim Collins, who's one of the shortest guys in professional baseball. Steve Cishek, who's closing for the Marlins. Kevin Youkilis, great example of a guy who, strength and conditioning made a big difference for him, being a guy who really wasn't heavily recruited out of high school, and he turned into a guy who's got almost 10 years of big league service time. So those are three examples of guys who have been in training with us. Brian LaHare, another great example. Kind of a late bloomer in the context of baseball, where taking care of their bodies actually made a big difference for them long term in terms of being successful at the highest level.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that maybe baseball players get a bad rap for being guys that come out and just say, hey, I'm a baseball player? You want to talk a little bit about that?
It certainly can happen, because I think baseball sometimes is a sport where maybe you're successful because of traits. You've got a good curveball, or you've got a real loose shoulder, or if you're a hitter, you've got great sports vision, something that you've maybe been blessed with. But by that same token, throwing a baseball is the single fastest motion in all of sports. When you talk about hitting, or throwing, your hips rotate one direction while your torso rotates another direction. It's a tremendous amount of stress on your torso. So these are incredibly significant demands that are placed on these athletes on a regular basis. So in spite of the fact that you may be successful because of a trait that maybe was outside of your control, there are a lot of things you can do to control how healthy you are over the long term. So I think the whole mindset of I'm a baseball player, not an athlete, I think that's kind of gone by the wayside over the course of the years, as you see more and more really athletic guys going to the big leagues. You see guys throwing harder than ever. You see home runs going further than they ever did. It's important things for kids to realize that they really can positively impact their long-term performance if they take care of themselves off the field.
Yeah, and it's that kind of hard work that translates into those types of big home runs and big numbers. Mm-hmm. Talk about New Balance. Their slogan has changed the game, yeah. And I think sports performance training is a big part of that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big component. For us, especially being a Northeast-based company and being near their headquarters, I think you have to appreciate the fact that New Balance has they try to do it right. They haven't tried to be everything to everybody. They've really jumped into baseball and tried to do it to the best of their ability, and they've taken care of their athletes at the highest level. But they've also really paid it forward in terms of a ton of charity work, working with kids at the younger levels to really teach them how to respect the game, how to play it the right way, and obviously supporting an initiative like this I think is really important for building the future of the game, because these are the kids that are going to be carrying the torch, so to speak, for what happens down the road. So I think for us it's a great kind of alliance on the sports performance side of things, because they're very dedicated to changing the way that baseball is done, and we're trying to do the same thing on the strength and conditioning side of things, and making people realize that, hey, baseball players are athletes. There are things they can do to protect themselves long term, and that's important in a sport where billions of dollars are wasted due to injuries.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. We really appreciate you working with all the kids out here at the 2012 Area Code Baseball Games presented by New Balance. Thanks a lot, Eric.